Clemson, going into college, definitely thought you had to go like the medical route or I have to be a lawyer because you just don't know. So went in thinking I wanted to be a dermatologist because I like popping people's pimples. Took a biology class freshman year, realized it might not be for me, and knew I liked communicating with people. But as you know, and I don't know how much the department has grown, but there wasn't that many at the time in each class. I think it was around 100. And so I applied to move over and I got denied my first time. So I was like really bummed. I was like, all right, I know what I want to do, rejection. Okay, cool. So went and talked to Lori, went and talked to Eddie Smith. It kind of helped me realize what I want to do and create the connections so that when I applied the next time, people realized, I wasn't just moving over because I thought it sounded like a fun major. It's because I really had an idea of what I wanted to do and I thought I could be beneficial to the program. So next time I applied, I got in. After my junior year, I took an internship in Los Angeles in entertainment PR, and it was great. When you see the movie and there's the intern with the coffee, 100% that was me. But like when I say like I was at the bottom, like I was so low, but it was a great opportunity. I learned a lot. I also learned that I didn't want to do entertainment PR. It's a little bit too cutthroat for me personally. So came back and reached out to the head of communications at the Panthers and said, I want to get your internship when I graduate. What's going to make me the best candidate? And he said, you need to work in your athletic department and you need someone to trust you enough to publish your work. So I did the athletic department as a whole, and I drove up to Panthers games on the weekends and I volunteered on game days. And then I got an internship after. So everyone's like getting jobs and I got an internship, and I was pumped for my minimum wage. So went into the Panthers, got lucky with the year I had. We went to the Super Bowl, met a lot of people. Ended my year, no job available, no one left, so they weren't hiring. My boss even created a position for me, it got denied. The assistant GM created a position for me, it got denied. So then I left and I was sad because I created these great relationships and they really liked me, but there just wasn't room. So I got my real estate license because why not? Let's just do it. And then I got a call from the Panthers and they said, we don't have room in PR, but will you come back in sponsorship? And I said, sure. My old boss said, spend a year there, then I'll argue you have PR background and you have corporate background and you're going to start the corporate communications department. I'm like, all right, let's go. Day 5 in the job, the Bucks called, said, can you be here in a week? And my old boss, loved him to death. He's like, you need to go. So moved down to Tampa, knew no one. It was a great 3 years. And I kind of just grew out of my role, made the decision that I was gonna leave the NFL and just do real estate. And then I got a call from Rondé Barber. He's a Fox analyst. He was in the Bucks building all the time. And I talked to him all the time about things. And he called and he said, I know you want to do real estate, but what if you could head PR for the Super Bowl here? And I was like, yeah, let's do it. So he put in a good word and I started in November. Just to give a little background on the host committee, because I think everyone still assumes I either work for the Bucks or I work for the NFL, but I actually don't work for either. The host committee is basically the boots on the ground liaison to the NFL in the year, 2 year, 3 years leading up to the big game. Basically what it is the sports commission, they're a group of 8, and they hired on 5 of us for the next 14, 15 months to go in and supplement areas that they don't have. So for me, I'm marketing and communications. And as of like a week ago, I'm also apparently accreditation because I've done that for the last 5 years. So we'll see how that goes. So I felt like I did like internships and I did the things I needed to do during my senior year. So I was like, all right, like I'll be able to get a job. Well, it's not just that there's not a job available, like you're going against thousands of people for an internship to get paid minimum wage to then not even be guaranteed a job after it. And again, for me, it was worth it. It's what I wanted to do. But I think that was kind of shocking to me that you can do so much and along the way, if you find something else that interests you, or hey, guess what, I just can't keep interning, I can't afford it, it doesn't mean you failed. Like, you wouldn't have gotten the connection without doing it in the first place. So I think just being honest with yourself and not seeing it as being a failure, but instead like just like a stepping stone into the next direction is just how you have to approach it. There's no typical day. Before you, I was on the phone with CBS Sports. We are trying to land where their footprint is going to be during Super Bowl. Again, they are the broadcast network, so they're going to have first dibs on that. But for someone to come to you and say, hey, I need 5 acres with a water view, downtown view, and you need to promise me that, you know, no one's going to block the view. So we have to get slightly more creative with it being a smaller city, but the cool part about that is everything's so much closer. So there's pros and cons to everything. We think we're locking them in on a pretty good spot that's going to give them a lot of fan interaction, a lot of foot traffic, and have all the beauty shots that they want. But I'm not on the phone with them every day, you know, so sometimes I'm doing the podcast, sometimes I'm writing bios, sometimes I'm writing press releases. We're trying to launch like a social campaign right now because everyone's on social media. Yes and no. I think this question, it changed over time for me. So when I first got in the industry, I would say, yeah, you know, it makes it much harder. I have to like be more careful about what I say and do. Like, you know, girls kind of have a higher pitched voice for the most part. So if you're walking around, you know, by the team meeting rooms or the locker room and the guys just got like murdered the day before in the game, like your high voice is going to stick out more than a guy maybe laughing. So I think it's more so just being aware of your surroundings, like knowing when to speak and not speak. My old boss always said it's called getting skinny, and that applies to everyone, but when you're a female, you might just stick out a little bit more because guess what? You're like one of maybe 2 and there's 100 guys around. But I think as time went on, I kind of leaned into the advantages of it. Sometimes players weren't willing to work with males. They felt more comfortable working with females, maybe because, you know, they had a bad game the day before and they don't really want to talk about it. And maybe if they talk to a male about that, they feel like weak possibly. And talking to a girl, they felt like they could have slightly more of that emotional, softer connection with. So a lot of times, like, you know, even when I was an intern, Josh Norman at the time, like he would only work with me. But it benefited me because he ended up having a Pro Bowl season and ended up getting paid and was the highest paid cornerback after that year. But as an intern, would I maybe been placed with him? Maybe not, but like he kind of wouldn't work with anybody else. So it gave me an opportunity to be exposed and work with some national media on interviews with him that I wouldn't have had the same with. And then when I went on to the Bucks, there was 2 or 3 players that were very similar to that, very high profile players that just felt more comfortable working with a female, and it was me and 5 guys. But I think a lot of it's just the more comfortable you get, the more established you get, the more that you show your worth. You're not going to be so worried. I think if this pandemic wasn't going around, it would be slightly different. I didn't go through what you went through, you know, people are getting laid off right now. They're not really hiring. But I think the one thing is just like, keep your head up. It's going to be a hard time, but at the end of the day, like sports is going to come back. It's kind of the unifying language. And I think everyone is going to find an escape in it. And when it can come back, it's going to come back. And I think in some ways, like view it as a positive. I think there might be budget cuts. They might cut full-time people, but guess what? That means more interns. And don't take it as a bad thing, like take it as an opportunity to go in there, show your worth, and then when they're able to get their budgets back up the next year, guess what? You just sat there and spent a year with them, and that's your opportunity to go in that entry-level full-time job. Maybe not even being like, what jobs do you have open right now? You know, just kind of reaching out and being like, hey, you know, I read the news last week. I know there were some layoffs. I saw you're still there. Like, that's amazing. Like, keep pushing through. Just wanted to let you know I'm still interested. I know you might have a hiring freeze right now, but like, you know, if you have any time to talk or any updates along the way, just know, you know, I'm interested. You know, just putting something out like that, like, and if you don't get a response back, that's okay. Like, there's not really much of a response to that, but I think like I still remember the people that go into my inbox, and even if later the resume comes through, like I always Google last names to see if they've sent me something, to staying in contact, sending handwritten notes, sending emails. Don't email the whole department because they most likely sit 5 feet away from each other. So when I don't answer, if it's only been an hour and then you email the guy beside me, it's kind of annoying. So like, just give it a couple days. And I would say versus emailing the top person, email like 2 or 3 down. That 2 or 3 down might have a little bit more time, but they still have enough pull to bring it up if you're a good candidate. So for me, I think so many people in the past, they've reached out to me and they said, it's like March, and they're like, what jobs do you have? I'm super interested. And I'm like, well, what experience do you have? And it's like, it's kind of like they just decided yesterday they want to do sports. And I'm not saying you can't get there, but don't expect to get the internship with the NFL team when you have no experience yet. And you can start a couple years later with that. Like I've had people that are kind of in the same position as me, but a couple years older because they wanted to do fashion when they first got out of school and they realized they didn't like it. They had to do an internship when they were 25 and then work at nights at Nordstrom. And guess what? She wanted it enough that she did it. And now she's full-time with community relations at the Panthers. So I think the main thing is just because like you've taken PR classes and done these things, like if someone is applying for an internship in the NFL, I want them to have worked in the athletic department in some capacity possibly. I want them to have worked game days, and it doesn't have to be for the NFL. It can be for the minor league baseball team. You know, but it's just like, I need to see that like you wanted this enough to go do something versus just emailing me. And again, like that's not to say if you don't have it yet, it's the end of the world, but it's just those are the things people are looking for. Like, you need the experience. You got to show that like you wanted it more than just sending me an email. Because like if not, like you're definitely not going to want to work the hours I'm about to ask you to work. I was in a communications department that guided me to go get an internship. I think Lori told me like, have you heard of Public Relations Student Society of America? Like, was I even like super involved? No, there wasn't that many meetings, but like I jumped on it as soon as she told me to, because like those are the things that make your resume before you have the experience to make your resume. And you just need to get relevant stuff on your resume. Even if it looks slightly like fluff right now, it just shows that you're trying. I mean, I'm not like the most tech savvy person in the world, but I'm having to learn. Like I'm learning Zoom, and you know, the podcast is on Zoom, and my boss is like, hey, I want to figure out how we can get backgrounds uploaded so we can have our podcast logo on there. And so like doing my due diligence, seeing community media partners that are doing it on their end, and, you know, doing conference calls with them on Zoom and getting them to share their screen and, you know, figure it out. Like I've learned over time, anytime my boss like suggests something, it's more like get it done. But like getting used to technology, adjusting with the times, being sensitive to the time it is. You know, we're trying to sit here and button up and finalize some of these partnerships, but they might be laying off people right now. They might still want to be a part of the Super Bowl, but maybe they don't want that announced right now because they're having to make cuts other places, but they also still see the Super Bowl and being a part of it as like a really positive thing because it's giving back to the community. It definitely changes the way that you balance, and you talk about like a work-life balance. Well, like my work is now my life and it's at home in my office, you know, so you don't really have the separation.
Thanks for tuning in to our Perspectives Young Alumni session. These sessions are designed to connect current students with recent graduates so they can get a better understanding of what their academic discipline offers them in professional careers. If you would like to learn more or participate, please email communication@clemson.edu. We look forward to hearing from you.